Russo'sBrand.com, where the pros are the pros.
Well, fans and WWE wrestlers and employees were taken by surprise this week when R-Truth announced that he is leaving WWE. He tweeted, "I'm sorry to inform you all, I just got released from WWE. I want to thank WWE for the ride, but mostly I want to thank each and every one of you who was along for the ride. Thank you for all the love, support, and appreciation you have given me over the years. Thank you." So R-Truth, who's been with his first run started in 1999, but this run has been 17 years.
Wow.
He's been there.
19 years.
Interesting conversation with Bully Ray and Mark Henry on Busted Open. Bully said Vince McMahon loved R-Truth. Mark, tell me if I'm wrong. Vince McMahon would have never gotten rid of R-Truth, and Mark Henry said not in a million years.
True. He probably would not have. Because I had heard the same thing, that Vince really, really, really loved R-Truth, thought he was a great guy, and kept him around specifically just, I think, for kind of locker room morale. Remember, Vince, they used to keep Mideon around for
everybody loved him. Absolutely.
I mean, everyone loved Mideon. And then,
obviously Triple H and Tony Khan and those in the know, obviously they know Nick Khan, obviously they know of the Saudi deal going down. So they obviously did this out of spite because they knew that Truth was Vince's boy. Come on, Al.
You know that? Really? You just...
for a guy that's in the wrestling business, Al, I got to sit here and smarten you up to all of this?
You do, because some of this is just way out there.
All right.
I got to tell you. I think it's probably a little bit more like somebody went, God, he's been here 19 years. Do we have any real major plans for him? No. How much are we paying? Holy crap. You know what?
Think about the money he made in those 19 years.
Oh, yeah.
Think about the money
he's going to continue
to
make because of all of the public outcry by the wrestling community. When this guy, the average release, these guys come out off the reservation and they go out in the wilds of the independent world, man, they can rake in money left and right because let's be honest, there are no real there's very few, I'm not going to say no, there's just very few actual promoters that run a business that go, wait a minute, if this guy's going to cost me this much, how am I going to be able to make money off of it based on ticket sales alone, because that's how they're going to operate. They're going to, their business model is on attendance based. So how can I justify paying this one guy this exorbitant amount of money? And, and is he going to be able to draw that for me? But the majority of them don't operate like that. They just go, oh, shoot, R-Truth's released. Oh, man, that'd be so cool if we brought him in. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, it'd be cool. Okay, we're not going to make it money. We're going to lose money. It'll be cool because, man, it was wrong that he got released. He's going to have them lined up around the block. Not to mention now, because I've posed this question quite a few times, we know how popular the wrestling conventions are, especially up in the Northeast. And it's like they've used every single attraction that they could have. I mean, they've run them to death through those conventions, those wrestling conventions. Now, it's like, well, where are you going to get the new one? The guy that, well, here he is, ta-da. And R-Truth is going to be able to name a price, walk in the door and collect it and walk out. I mean, and good for him. He's been blessed. He's been blessed to be in WWE and make a consistent amount of money for years. Not 19 of them, nearly 20 years, which is unheard of. Outside of Triple H and Shawn Michaels or Undertaker, I think he's probably the next longest guy there. To be able to have that lengthy a run, that's incredible.
Yep.
And that's nothing to with wrestling especially. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that run's going to come to an end. After a 19-year run, hey, thanks, guys. I got to go. I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be disappointed. And no one should be for it at all. Because before just recently, when they really started to, factor him in and feature him, and with the John Cena thing, If he'd have been released a year ago, will we have the same amount of outcry when he wasn't being even noticed that he wasn't even there on the air?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are long periods of time. Let's think about this and remember, there were long periods of time. You didn't see hide nor hair of him for not 6 months, a year and a half. You know, there'd be a long period of time in between R-Truth appearances. Now it's fresh off of his run with Cena, and now everybody's like, "What? How can that be?" You know, because he's in their minds. He's prevalent.
Well, R-Truth's not the only one not being re-signed. Valhalla, Sarah Logan, she put out on Instagram, "Dear Wrestling, I come to you with tears in my eyes because our time has come to a sudden end. WWE informed me yesterday that they are letting my contract expire. To be completely honest, my ego can't help but be damaged. You always assume that when you end a lifelong career, there's going to be a grand exit. But here I am, using the Notes app on my phone, typing up a goodbye letter to an entity that will forget I was even there. I truly take no offense to this. My career as it was is getting usurped by my vocation, and it's all on a divine timeline that I trust deeply. I'll definitely miss you, but know I'll be taken care of by my wonderful husband, by the land you provided for me, and alongside the children I've made along the way. I'm going to take off the weight of being a superstar and let myself soar being just Sarah."
Just because she's released from WWE doesn't mean that that's the end of her career. She can continue her career if she wants. That's the one thing that it seems like nowadays, whenever somebody gets released from WWE, it's like a death knell. Like, oh my God, that's the end of them. They're gone. They're never going to exist again in the world of wrestling. When you can, and there have been plenty of modern day examples. Look at Cody. Look at Dustin. I mean, look at Road Dogg. Even prior to that, he came and went 2-3 times in the company, you know, and always came back. If you use the time and the platform for what it's meant to be used, which is to make yourself an attraction, you can continue to be an attraction all around the world. And you can make more of an audience and reinvent yourself and always go back to WWE. It and AEW are not the single pathway to having a career.
The one line that stuck out to me here in her statement is, "Typing up a goodbye letter to an entity that will forget I was even there." Is that a common fear in wrestlers? Nobody's going to remember me after I leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll never forget out like a couple of years, might have not even been, probably a couple of years, maybe a year before he passed away. I interviewed Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff.
Yeah.
And Jeff, when I interviewed him, he literally, as a shoot, thought everybody forgot about him. Sure. And I had to sit here and say, brother, are you freaking kidding me? Like, but seriously, Al, I mean, Mr. Wonderful thought that he was long forgotten in the wrestling business.
Yeah, because Jeff, anybody that's in the public eye, they're in the public eye because they want to be remembered. They want to be noticed. They want to be, they want to make an impact to where when their time is done, which they never want it to end, and that's probably the biggest struggle, I think, for these young people is the vast majority of them, they pursue it and they go after WWE because they're enamored with this belief that they're going to become a celebrity and that they're going to be for the fame. And they attest or equal fame to success, meaning that the more famous they are, clearly they must be more successful. And that's probably the biggest mistake they could make, is equating success with fame. But then they get addicted to it. And then when they get released, it's not about continuing, because it was never about the walk. It was always about the destination. They don't necessarily enjoy the walk. They're not getting into professional wrestling to genuinely pursue a career as a professional wrestler. They're getting in to professional wrestling to pursue professional wrestling to get to the destination, which is WWE. And then once they get to that destination, well, now once that comes to an end, they figure that's it. We're done. The lights are off. Might as well go to sleep because we're not going to, be able to continue to pursue and get that, external validation of being famous in any other form. When they can still go out and have a rewarding career as long as they do what it is they loved to do, as opposed to just loving it for the destination.
Hey, Al, do you think with today's wrestler compared to your time, do you think there's much more of a sense of false security? Because they all seem to be shocked when they're let go. When you guys knew, like you say it every week on that show, you knew the run is going to come to an end. You guys all know that, so you're making as much as you possibly can. Every time I hear from one of these people let go, it seems like they're shocked by it.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do you think there's such a sense of false security today that you guys did not have?
I think because, again, there was, when I got, it never struck me until I was having this exact conversation with a class, guys. We were watching videos back, wrestling matches, and I commented that, I didn't get signed with WWE. I didn't get signed with anybody, because that was something nobody did. You didn't get signed to a contract until WWF. And that wasn't until 1995. So at that point in time, I started in 82. That was 13, 14 years. And then one guy was aghast. One of the young wrestlers was like, "What? You didn't get signed for 14 years?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. Because I didn't get into the business to get signed. I got into the business to just make a living.
To work.
Being a professional wrestler."
Right.
It wasn't the destination or objective wasn't to get to a certain company. It was just to work for any company on a regular basis. That was everyone's mindset back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has definitively changed without a question or a doubt. It is now, it's two forms. One, no ifs, ands, no buts. I'm getting into wrestling to get to WWE, period. I'm not getting into wrestling because I just want to be a wrestler. I'm getting into wrestling because I'm going to get to WWE. Second is, if I can't get into WWE, I need to get signed somewhere. I'll get signed by MLW. I'll get signed by NWA. I'll get signed by AEW. I don't care, as long as I can walk around with the badge that I'm signed, which now makes me feel validated and superior to all the rest of those indie rabble that are just running around wrestling, in the basements and the backyards and the National Guard armories. Granted, NWA and MLW and, even OVW, we're all on the same level, but they would rather walk around and peacock and say, I'm signed with NWA than just work for OVW and not have a signed contract. It's bragging rights. And they've conditioned their minds so much that those are the only two objectives they have when they get in. And then once they get in and they achieve that objective, now when that objective comes to an end, they're like, well, that's it. We're done. I don't know what else we can do. I don't know what,
You know what's so funny about that, Al? Because I swear to God, as I, when I watch today's wrestling, what I always see, and I never got that feeling, back during, your time and my time. I always I'm watching these people and I always get this feeling that they think they're so over. Right. And they're not over. Like, I never got that feeling with you guys. Like, I literally, bro, my feeling with you guys, seriously, in Taker, everybody, you guys went to work.
Yeah.
This is your job. You guys went to work. I see them and I could just
be taken away in a moment's notice.
Yeah, I could just tell they just think they're so over and they're freaking not. And I think that's where the shock comes when they're released, because they've convinced themselves, like you said, oh, we've got a contract and now we're over.
Yeah. And they're on a different level. And now, oh my God, I built my whole mindset to where this defines me. And now without it, what do I do? And the fans, a lot of the, the internet aware, the internet wrestling community, they treat it much the same way, of, oh my God, so-and-so got released. How dare they? Or, oh, another tragic, multiple releases. That happens all the time, constantly. That's a part of the business. It's part and parcel. And if you used the platform for what it was, then it wouldn't be a tragedy. You would just go and then you'd continue to make a living as a professional wrestler. Yeah, you're not going to get as much notoriety. You're not going to get as much exposure on a different platform. Let's face it. You're not going to make as much money. But you're still going to be able to make a living. And if you, and especially like one of the biggest things that have changed, every old timer, and I'm sure you heard it, Vince, every old timer, you get booked. They go, okay, how much did you make? And you'd say, oh, I made this much. And they go, okay, how much did you save? Every time was, how much did you save, kid? How much did you save? So these people that are making this money are assuming it's going to last forever, and it doesn't. And, and are they saving some of that money? And then are they then be able to use the platform to where they can go out and continue to make money on a greater level, being a professional wrestler, traveling around and doing what they love to do? Or was it they got into it not for the love of what they do, but simply to achieve the destination?
Jeff, what else you got for the Great Al Snow?